What's up, guys? Yes, Sam is here. Anita's here.
Yeah.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the first live show of a currently planned 4 live shows of the August of the Apt, where we this month read Empire in Black and Gold, which was Tchaikovsky's first novel, which, if you've seen my review, you already know how I feel about it. I am in it to win it. So good. Oh, Albert, we're going to be talking non-spoilers for the first 20 minutes, so you're fine, Albert. I was trying to finish for those last 5 pages. So with me here today, I have 3 special guests, Dom, Christy, and Joe. I will let them introduce themselves and their channel, because if you're not subscribed to them, you definitely should be. Dom.
Hi, everyone. My name's Dom, and my channel is Dominish Books. I talk predominantly fantasy with the occasional little bit of sci-fi thrown in there as well. And Shadows of the Apt is one of my favourite series. So really pleased that Alan's doing this read-along. Really pleased to be here and to talk about the books. And I'm getting a bit of lag, so I do apologise if I'm all very choppy when I'm moving around.
Yeah, the sound is fine, but if in case it's a lag and you jump in, let's just listen for Dom if he starts talking to just pause it, because lag is lag. But yeah, Dom is the only one of us here in the on the panel here who has read the entire series. And that being said, as we start talking, if any of you in the comments have read past book 1, please keep all of your comments specific to book 1. Specifically because this is a book about war, and you don't even mentioning things that happen later in the book. If you're oh man, you're really gonna like this character's development in book 7, it's well, now I know they survived the war till book 7. Please don't do that. So please keep all discussions to book 1, just because man, it's a tense book. It is a tense book. Joe.
What's up? So I'm Joe. My channel is Average Joe's Library. I predominantly talk about fantasy, sci-fi. I do mystery thriller stuff, the occasional nonfiction, so kind of a lot of all over the spectrum. And I also like to throw in some Kindle Unlimited specific content, that type of things. I've been around for about 6 months or so still just kind of getting my legs under me.
Very cool. And Christy.
Hi guys, my channel is Christy Lewis, Dostoevsky in Space, and I love fantasy and science fiction, nonfiction, classics. I try to read a little bit of everything, and I love doing live streams with friends. So thanks for inviting me.
You basically read this whole book in Russian, right? You read this.
Yeah. Right.
Anyway, we have many people here joining us. We got 20 people here joining us. That's awesome. Ina, what's up? Angela, I actually read this in a Voxer chat with Ina and Angela and Katrina, talking about they got to hear all of my thoughts. We had similar thoughts in certain places, but I agree, Matt. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So really quickly before we start, so guys, at the beginning, this will be non-spoilers. We will let you know very, very loudly when we start talking about spoilers. So if you haven't read it, you can get out of Dodge. But hopefully this non-spoiler section will convince you to pick it up if you haven't already. I know I have a review of this up. Dom has a review of it up. I hadn't watched it yet because I was trying to film my review first, so I didn't let it color what I was saying. So that's on the top of my watch later list. So please, guys, make sure you go watch those reviews of this book if you're on the fence. Bug people in fantasy. We're definitely going to try to convince you. So guys, everyone here who has read it, what did y'all give? What did you give? Would y'all simmer down? My cats are having a fit. What did y'all rate this book if you rate it? And if not, how did you just feel about it? I rate things on a 5-star scale, and I have no problem giving this beast 5 stars. I know, I think in the chat, in the Discord, I'm the only one that gave it 5 stars. And you know what? That's fine, because for me, I'm a very experiential reader, and if I can't wait to keep reading it, and then I finish and it sits with me, and I'm just man, I got to start the next book. Why am I on BookTube where I have TBRs? Why can't I start the next book? It's got to be 5 stars for me. There's so much in it that I just love, from the political intrigue to the war to the characters to the really interesting world. it was for me. And I'm not a super strict review rater, so my 5 stars are not as precious as other people's 5 stars. And side note, I think that's fine as long as you're internally consistent. You know what I mean? Like if you're someone who, is more discerning with your 5 stars, that's fine. People know. I am not as discerning, and I'm never gonna be. So, Dom, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've said before, it's one of my favourite series. I read this about 10 years ago. I read it on my honeymoon, actually, back in 2010, and I loved it then. I love the rereads now. When I was reviewing kind of some notes about it to refresh myself when I did the my Why You Should Read video, I was reading some things and I thought, yeah, I remember that and I really enjoyed it. And people were saying the characters weren't as great and as fleshed out. So I was commenting on that. And to be honest, when I reread it, I thought, no, I don't believe that at all. I loved it. I thought the book was great. The characters were great. And it was a 4-star read because I am a bit more picky than you, let's face it, Alan. And I am one of those people where 5 is a bit precious. So, 4 stars and truly deserving of it.
Shelf improvement, exactly. Joe, what about you?
Solid 4. It might go to a 4 or 5 depending on the next book. It was the beginning that kind of detracted it for me. Kind of in the same vein of you that you're giving out 5s. I have the vast majority of my books are 4s, and I think the only time that I give ones 5 is when I start to compare them to my other 5s, and I'm just like, okay, did I enjoy this in the same realm as those 5s? I think it was a little bit backed off. So strong, easy 4. But could be bumped up to a 4 or 5 depending on how, because the series is so long that you don't know what everything is important, what everything's going to add up to down the road anyway. So yeah, I'm very, very happy with the 4 and just where things are going.
Yeah. It looks like most of the people in the audience were 4s. That's about the average rating. We've got some 3.5s, some 4.5s. Diamond. Yes. Join me, Diamond. This pleases me greatly. Oh, the fact that I am rarely thrilled that a series is 10 bleeding books long. Rarely, because I'm like, ugh. But I read Empire Black Gold. I'm like, yes, I have 9 more books. Yes.
Yes. How much else is going to be introduced?
Yeah, exactly. I'm so excited. Christy, where'd you put it?
I put it I use the 100% scale system. So I'm probably about an 82 or an 83, which is really good.
That's about a 4.
There was just, yeah, about a 4. So it was really, really good. I really enjoyed it.
That is excellent. Yeah. So again, the lowest I've seen is the 3.5s, which I completely understand. I understand why people would give this a 3.5. So non-spoiler thoughts. I obviously loved it. I think the world is fascinating. Sam was telling me, and I completely agreed. Where's Sam? Yeah. When you're reading and another Kindin comes up, you're like, yes, another Kindin. What's their power? What do they do? I'm like, it's like, he compared it to Pokemon. It's like another one coming out. It's like, yes, what's their power? Like Soldier Beetle. And at we hear tell of the crickets and the mythical the legendary mosquito lords that may or may not have existed. And I'm like, I want to see the mosquito lords. I love that. But I loved the characters. I mean, the prologue is a siege. And y'all know, I love sieges. I love cities being attacked. And so from the prologue where the city's falling and, the defenders have been betrayed, this is all in the first 2 pages. I thought the first 2 paragraphs, Tchaikovsky did a fantastic job of just kind of setting up the world. He leaves you with enough questions while through his prose, telling you what's going on, the attitude between the people. I thought it was brilliant. It was so good. And it just, I'm gonna talk forever. So I'm just gonna say I loved it. I love the characters. I love the central antagonist. I thought its themes of imperialism and how on earth anyone doesn't prepare for an expansionist empire and can possibly be like, oh no, they're fine. They're not going to come for us. Yeah, they are. What's wrong? It was just really, really good. Dom, non-spoiler impressions.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love that. My absolute favourite part is the different kingdoms. So what you're saying, all those different ones, but once you start to realise what their, as you call it, their powers, what their ancestor arts are, trying to figure out if you've got a group of them, how are they going to get out of certain situations? How are they going to utilise this character's skills over that character's skills, and little things like that. So that's what I absolutely love. There's so much inventiveness with this series. I literally, I can't think of anything like it for the creation in here. The first chapter, I think that might be actually one of my favourite, that prologue chapter, because in there, as well as the intensity of it, you get introduced to some of the characters, the world, some of the different kingdom and the arts that they've got, and it all just, all just seems natural. It's just done in a really great way, I thought. And as an opening for a debut book as well, I was kind of blown away with that, to be honest. It was amazing for me.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that for a debut novel, like Joe, that's one of your sticking points, isn't it? The fact, like the sheer, the stones on Tchaikovsky to go for all this huge expansiveness on this first novel.
I keep imagining the pitch meeting of like his first book going into a publisher's and be like, "Hey, I have this fantasy series I want to write. I think it's going to be about 10 pages or 10 books long." And they're like, "Oh, okay, cool. So it's going to be like classic swords and sorcery. You're going to have dragons and stuff." No, insects. Like, what? No, insects. Yeah. They're going to be about insects, and there's going to be these abilities that they're going to have, and all this stuff. And it's like, oh, okay. So there's going to be magic. No, they're not going to believe in magic. What are you doing? So, yeah, I just kept thinking of how he even pulled this off for a first novel. And he's just like, you know what? I want this in the book. I want this in the book. I want this in the book. I'm just going to do what I want. So that was, that was my biggest thing of how it kept growing and growing. Once you get past the treasure trove of information and things that he gives you in the beginning, which it was the slower part for me. Once you get past all that and you get the hang of it and see how things are tying in, see how people are acting toward each other and how the art works and things like that, it's like, oh my God, there's just so much buy-in at that point. You want more and more now because he just gives you so much. So and I'm glad that at the end he gives you a little bit of taste of like there could be more as well, because you introduced so much in the first book, but it's like there's still more to go because you've only been to like 3 places.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, I know. And hold on, I agree, Matt. Like Guns of the Dawn, like his writing has improved. It's a different kind of book. Like if you don't like something that feels historical fantasy like Napoleonic War or Swamps, it's maybe not, but it's fantastic. But like Joe, I agree. It's like it. For those who think that there are bug people, they're not bug people. They are humans who have like evolved alongside insects, so they have some kind of insectoid qualities. They don't look like bugs. They look like humans who may have, blank eyes in like, no pupils in respect to the wasp people. Yeah.
And like
or
like lanky, short and squat.
Yeah, like this is what the wasp people look like. They look like people.
Jason Momoa.
They can just they can like summon like these wings that they need to. Like they don't have wings. They can summon them as part of their like ancestor art. And the wasps aren't super good at flying. Like they suck at flying. The dragonflies kick the crap out of them when it comes to flying. And the mantises have like bone plates. Like bone spurs on their wrists that they can that can stab. But really, what looks most mantis from them is they have these gloves that have this folding blade that comes out that looks like a praying mantis claw. And so a lot of their like weaponry and tech or like abilities are insect-like, but they are not insects themselves. And it's really easy. Like I never thought of them as insects, even though they started calling them they're like, oh, the wasps. I'm just like, okay, that's this particular tribe of people with this particular ability, if that makes sense. So I know some people said bugs, nope. And it's like, there aren't really any bugs. Yes. So Colton, hopefully I answered that question. Is they have some, but not really. Allison loved the world and the plot. Some of the relationships are developed. We're going to talk about the relationships for sure. Yes, we sold it on Rahul. All right, Matt. That's fine. If you want to picture it as Bug's Life, that's fine. Okay. Well, the thorn bugs, they're the most bug-like. They're ugly. He does really like insects, I think. Anyway, Christy, give me your non-spoiler opinions while I'm flashing these comments up.
Sure. So yeah, I was sold on this one from literally chapter 1. It almost made me cry at the end, and I was so surprised. Like, that's not really common with a book that's so giant. And in the fantasy genre, usually there's like a lot of setup that I find interesting, but not like emotionally engaging, So from the beginning, I was so engaged with these characters, and that's really what kept drawing me along, is because I care about the characters. So that's really what I need from fantasy. And then everything else is just like, oh, bonus, cool. So because I read fantasy for the world building, so if it has great characters, it's just like so cool. So I loved all of the characters, even though I had complaints about some of them, which we'll probably talk about.
We'll definitely talk about.
But Dom, like what Dom said, it's super inventive. So that really drew me into.
It really is. And if you read fantasy for the world building, this is some of the coolest world building. It's just done really well. Yeah, in this book, he definitely does. There are definitely info dumps. Info dumps bother me less than most people. So,
well, his pacing was so good that it didn't even really matter.
I agree. I think the slowest pace is like the first 150 pages after the prologue, which I know, Joe, you thought was slow also, right?
Yeah. It was kind of hard to picture and get into things and like how he was introducing stuff. But like even in the beginning, when an info dump that you might say is how he explained the art. And I was like, that was done so well and so efficiently that it's just like, okay, now that like really helped to understand how the insects, like how these people use their ability to use their ancestor art. So that was really great. It was just like, yeah, so some of the transitions between chapters, I think, were either rushed or sloppy at times. I think he definitely gives you a lot at first, and it's almost like I see this with a lot of debuts, is that like the first 20% almost seems like they're just so excited to tell you about the story that they have to tell you, and it's like sometimes there's a little bit of jarring or incoherent, at least to me. But after things get cleared up and they kind of get their getting their groove writing wise, I think it really becomes great.
I agree. I think he did the info dumps well. And I think one of my favorite parts of this is how culturally different all of the races, all of the Kindin are. And he shows us how different culturally they are through the eyes of the characters. Like, just the fact that the industrialized beetles we see in Che, his Stenwold's niece, just thinking, like, just asking Salma, the dragonfly, like, what do you mean y'all don't use technology? Like, how do you do anything? Like, you don't like being civilized? Like, why is everything take forever and he's like, no, we just don't use it. And it's just like, it's just really well done. Like that kind of layered, just like, why aren't you like our society? Stuff. And it just reveals a lot. Like all of them are so different from the cities, the warring city-states of the ants to the, Persian/Nazis of the wasps to, for me, the dragonflies felt kind of Eastern, like East Asian, with their, respect for paper and respect for the written word and not like, Salma's like, why do these beetles just write notes on scraps of paper and then throw them away where he's sitting there composing a letter for like an hour? I just thought it was really, really, really good. Dom, you love the Kindin and everything. What else non-spoiler did you like about this book or this series just in general before we get into spoilers?
Yeah, I try to stay away from the series because it's all blurred for me, and it's difficult. I keep thinking, I really like this character, and we're not going to meet that character because they come in like in the second half of the series, and then I found out actually no, they're in book 2 or book 3, so that's great. So there's lots of great characters, and certainly some of the characters, again, because of the spoilers, it's a really good point to make. I'm not going to mention any names on them, but some of them have got some really good arcs, and for me, it's really fun actually looking at some of the comments in your Discord, and people are saying, oh, I hope this character does this, or I can't wait to see what happens with this character. And I'm there kind of, I know, but I can't say anything. So for me, it's more kind of the living vicariously through everyone who's reading it for the first time. And I'm loving that. But for the book itself, I just find it, take the world building out of it, because that's just out there on its own. I just like that it's kind of different for any of the books I've read. It's kind of almost spy versus spy, or groups of spies. And I thought that was really interesting and really well done, the way those topics are handled, and the kind of the chase and escape scenes I thought were really, really intense, because you really follow along with that. And it was just something completely new. And some of the scenes in there, I said in my my intro video to the series, some of the scenes are just bonkers for what is essentially a fantasy book. I was really just not expecting a lot of what I ended up reading.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I agree. And like, as someone who read Long Price Quartet and then realized that no one on BookTube had read Long Price Quartet, I know how you must feel seeing people read this series that you loved, no one else has ever read, and now seeing people read it and like it. It's like that.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So we are going to we're going to go into spoilers. Hopefully you've heard enough to where you will pick it up, because you have time to catch up if you still want to go in this read along, because we're not starting book 2 till September. But we are going to go into spoilers. So if you do not want stuff spoiled for you, you must needs depart. All right, this is your final warning before I ask. We're going to talk about some good scenes, because Dom, you're right. There are some good, if I can remember the chapter number that a scene took place in, that was a good chapter. And there are 3 chapters that I remember distinctly. I would argue that chapter 29 is fantastic. The freaking prison break scene was so good. The action that was written in the freaking prison break, it was so long, and the whole time I'm like, oh my gosh, are they gonna get out? What are you doing? Go, get out, you fools. Oh crap, here comes Thalric. Oh my gosh. Anyway, that's so far in the book. We can come back to the prison break, but the prison break scene, the scene where Tissamon confronts Tissamon finds out about Tynissa's, heritage from Stenwald, and is literally about to gut Stenwald groin to gizzard. And then the next chapter, 19, where Thalric sits and talks with Che, those were 3 of my favorite chapters. Christy, what were some favorite moments for you?
Oh man, my favorite moments? Gosh, I'd have to think about it.
Okay, we'll come back.
Okay.
Joe.
So just bring it up with Thalric, and there's something that I'm sure we'll go deeper into Thalric just because there's so much to him. But his, as he grows throughout the book, I think back to early on in the book. There's a moment where he's sitting around somewhere and enjoying, at a pub, at a parlor somewhere with his other wasps, and he's just thinking well, when the Empire finally takes over, all of this is going to be gone, and it's almost like he's all for the Empire, but at the same time he's I don't agree with this, but I'm all for the Empire. And you just see that happen throughout, and that theme with him, where it's he's going to do whatever he wants or wherever he can for the Empire. But I think the inner conflict of that, how he doesn't agree, is he's either going to try and shape it to his own. But that was a something with Thalric that I really like to see. And once I saw that part happened, it was just you could just tell throughout his chapters.
Yeah. Hold on. Angela guessed this and something else that happened later in our Voxer chat and predicts it. I am not someone who ever predicts anything. I'm bad at figuring out twists and surprises and stuff. So she literally has instructions to where she's not allowed to, she has to warn before the prediction, because I won't listen to them, because after I've heard it, then I'm looking for it. I'm like, oh yeah, this is probably what's going to happen. Never would have guessed it if it hadn't been suggested. So I am going to avoid all of Angela's prophetic predictions henceforth. So Joe, is Thalric your favorite?
I think he's definitely the most interesting character for sure. There's some other ones that I think I want to see how they develop out, but book one, I know when I pick up book two, when I get to a Thalric chapter, I know I'm going to be probably really excited at first, because more than anybody else, depending on how they move along.
Yeah. Dom, if you can try to remember just book one, who's your favorite? Because obviously you've read the whole series, so that might color. But when you read book one, who's your favorite character?
Yeah, that's I thought about that one specifically because it is probably the hardest one for me to answer, because I know how far characters go and what happens to characters. But I think specifically from book one, I was a bit tied. I really liked Tissamon, I really liked Thalric, and I really liked, I pronounced it Tinissa, but Tinissa as well. I thought they were three really great characters. And Stenwald as well is maybe a bit underrated, I think, but I thought he had some really good scenes as well. And you can see the type of character he is right from the start.
Yeah, I agree. And just for you, Dom, no, I do not underrate Stenwald. Stenwald, my boy, like from the beginning chapter with him like coordinating the defense of Mina to the, chapter 1 or 2 or whenever maybe it's 5, whenever the wasps come, when he's giving his speeches warning about, I'm like, this character gives speeches to people who need to straighten up and fly right. That's my guy. And so I my least favorite chapters were really that like 100 pages right there near the beginning where Stenwald wasn't there. And I'm like, man, when's Stenwald coming back? And then Stenwald came back. I'm like, yeah, Stenwald. So Stenwald and Thalric are my favorites, pretty much by a significant length. Mostly because I tend not to gravitate towards the younger characters, and Thalric and Stenwald are the two adults, and Tissamon. Tissamon's cool too, but he's more of the like, come near me and I will murder you. Like he's just mad all the time.
Prototypical badass, yeah.
I mean, he's like the Wolverine of the group, which, Wolverine was never my favorite. But it's fine. I do like Tissamon. But Thalric and Stenwald, I love that Stenwald. And the reason I love Stenwald is because he is not perfect. He is so flawed. Can we talk about the moment that he can't control his disgust at Totho asking him to marry Che, and he can't?
Knee-jerk reaction. Yeah.
It's a knee-jerk reaction.
Sad.
And it was so realistic, and it was so just heartbreaking. I'm like, you too, Stenwald? Ah, man. I just felt so bad in that moment, and he couldn't help it. Like he couldn't control it. He has the same revulsion to half-breeds when it comes to, someone marrying his niece. Hold on. We got Tinissa here from Melly, Tinissa from Angela. I knew it was Tinissa from Angela.
Yeah.
Albert, I would have guessed Tissamon, Albert, but I'm not surprised by Tinissa. We're going to talk about Psalm in a second, Ina. Trust me. I talked about it before we went live. Stenwald. Yes, thank you, Stenwald. We're going to talk about that. Oh, so sad. Tinissa and Arceus. Someone who likes Arceus.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Arceus. All right. Christy, go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, pretty much. I was trying to think about my favorite scenes, and they pretty much all have Arceus in them because I thought he was my favorite. There's so much mystery behind him.
Favorite?
Yeah,
nice.
I love Arceus. So that moment when they were going into the forest, and then later when they went back to the forest, those were my favorite moments, I think, because I love that deep dark forest trope. There's so much mystery there, which is another reason I love fantasy, that kind of magical, mystical feel. And there's so much age and history and myth like behind those moments, and really all the settings have their own like history, and it just feels so deep and rich, which I love. So probably the forest scene is probably my favorite, but I love the moment when Che and Arceus just suddenly like break the, what you guys have been talking about, where all of the characters are prejudiced against other races, and just suddenly Che and Arceus can just break that. Like they just instantly almost are like, no, we're gonna defeat that power and like, save each other's lives. So I really loved that. I loved their
I think it was
bond, I guess.
I think it was her cousin, because Stenwald's her uncle. I think it was cousin Elias. Like cousin Elias.
I hate that guy.
Look, I love that Stenwald is too like. He's not the kind of guy that murders you. He is the kind of guy that gets the killer to murder.
That I loved. That was awesome.
Because I thought he was going to be like, no, we're not going to kill him. Instead, he's like, no, I'm not going to kill you. But Tissamon totally is.
Yeah.
That was like, I just like that kind of different layer to that Stenwald character. And sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to interrupt you. The Arceus stuff in the forest, that stuff was cool.
Yes.
The Arceus thing I didn't like was, I can help you learn your art.
I know. Okay.
We're gonna bring up the shoulder
massage.
This is how we moth help people learn their art.
The
and
move.
it's like, you sleep with people and help them learn how to use their magic? Like, that's the worst pickup line ever, unless it works, I guess. But
that's kind of yeah. No, that was weird. I admit it. That was weird. I really don't like it that a relationship has to be like fulfilled, I guess, by sex in a lot of modern literature. It's like, well, you don't have to move that fast. You could take a couple books.
Yeah, she started. Yeah, I was kind of uncle. Sorry, I'm just trying to. Oh,
he was
yeah.
top 3 for me. Arceus.
Who was? Yeah. Okay, so you liked her. Nice.
Because he sticks to his guns. He basically sticks to who he is the entire time, and he's just like the loner off to the side. And it doesn't matter, even if it would Tissamon came to like intimidate him, he was just like, no, I'm not back. I'm still me and doing what I feel is best. I don't care who you are. So I like that he stuck to his guns the entire time, and just how I get how brave he was for everything that he did, and just him sticking to who he is, even though his people think he kind of betrayed them. He still like was doing the best, and I like that a lot versus buckling to those around him.
Yeah, like I do like the fact that he is I like all of the prejudice that everyone has in these books, and like the wasps they're in a different kind of war. Like not the wasps, moths. The wasps are in a war for territory. The moths are in a war of ideology, of the apt, like technology is evil. Like we need to return to the old ways of understanding magic in the age of lore. And so that's why they're at constant war with, the apt, but it's kind of like guerrilla warfare. And so I do like that Arceus is very, like he's like that. This is how it is. But I also like that he's slightly less traditional than his Kindon are, in that he is very honorable. He's like, I owe a debt. I have to pay this debt off. You know what I mean? And so, I liked at the end where the moths joined in with the apt races.
Yes, they made such a difference.
Yeah, to take down the train because remember, Thalric, they did not expect the moths to help like that, and that's what broke the defense of the train, is the fact that they had tried to torch relationships with the moths, and so it was a huge difference. Yes, Melly, I agree. The moths and the Witcher universe, or the elves in the Witcher universe. Dom, what's your opinion on Arceus in this book and the moths, just in general?
I didn't mind him. I liked, as you were saying there, he's definitely more open-minded and a bit more kind of progressive, I guess, than the rest of them. For me, I don't think. There were bits, obviously, but I don't think we saw enough of the moths to get a really good picture of them from the first book. I guess the main thing is the little bit that we see of their actual city. But yeah, it was just, there wasn't enough of it for me. So it's a bit difficult to really form a good opinion of them, I think. But the character, yeah, I liked Arceus. I thought he was one of the kind of the better characters that was introduced a good portion of the way through the book. So there was definitely that, but I just wanted to see a bit more from this particular book, I think. Yeah, that makes sense.
So Anita's saying what I would say is, like, why didn't they just trash the track? I think it's because the track wouldn't take as long to build. And yeah, you could keep like you could keep trashing it again, but I mean, again, yeah, like the Wasps eventually, the same reason like all that stuff didn't get into trash. The Wasps eventually would just like they would just guard every section of track because they are numerous enough to do so. The train took, from what I understand, like years to build because of its special engine or whatever, and so getting rid of that like sets them, you know, it sets them back, from what I understand, like years with the inability to do that. That's what I'm assuming. I did not like Arceus.
And it's a bit more impressive as well. It's a big explosion. Track isn't going to have a big explosion though.
Yeah, absolutely. So you get that morale victory by having this big attack that blows something up. Like that's visible. That's something you'd be like, we blew up that train, rather than we stuck a penny on the tracks. But I did not like Arceus in this book because I'm just like, moths, what's y'all's problem? What is y'all's problem? I am the apt on my people. I'm like, yes, use those steam engines, use those crossbows. Moths, what are y'all doing? Like, what's y'all's problem? Like,
saving the day.
I mean, yeah, that's true. But I mean, I liked them. I liked that part. But like the whole time, I'm just like, what is your, like, why are you getting mad at my boy Totho? Like, what is your problem? Also, just stop. Like, stop taking people in the woods and being like, you know, the magic. Like, just stop. Like, just use it. I don't know. Like, just build a factory somewhere. You know, I'm very pro the apt races.
Factory somewhere.
I preferred the apt races to the inapt. To the Dom, are the Dragonfly apt? They're not, right? They're not apt?
No.
Okay. So I preferred the beetles and the ants to the mantises, and I can tell you right now I'm going to hate the spiders. I'm going to hate the spiders. I already hate the spiders.
Oh, no.
I was so upset when Scylla did not die because I hate shape changing. Shape changing is OP. It's too powerful. I am so mad that is still there. That's
where a lot of the twist came from, was from that one character.
I don't think it was poorly done. Like, I think it was well done. They set it up. They gave us the tools to kind of figure out. They never like left us in the dark to where like it came out of nowhere. It always showed us Thalric, and you know, like, so we had a window in. So I was fine with the way it was handled. I just don't like it as its power level. Like, it's too strong, because as long as there's a shape changer, they can never take anybody by surprise ever. And so, you know,
And at least we know he's still alive now, instead of like he pops up in book 2. Hey, guess what? I wasn't dead.
But they don't know. He's still alive. Yeah, they don't know he's still alive. So it's gonna. We'll see. We'll see. But again, I like the adults. My favorite of the kids, I like Totho. He felt. I don't know if he's
number 2 for me,
but he felt. Oh, look at this. Totho's annoying. That makes me sad. I like Totho. He felt
naive
he felt Spectrum to me, like doesn't know how to talk to anybody unless you're talking about the machines, and it's like he might just be super socially awkward, but like the fact that he just like would blah, 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 when you're talking about machines and stuff, like I identified with Totho. Plus everyone hates him, like even his uncle like is like, marry my niece? No, gross. It just makes me sad. I don't. I'm not surprised. I would argue. I would be willing to bet that most people prefer the inapt to the apt. Yeah. But I like the machineries. Totho did do his best. I agree that Totho needed more page time. Che got the most, obviously.
I love Che.
I'm excited for Totho because I almost feel like it's going to be like if you haven't read Faithful in the Fallen, but like Corbin, how he, in the beginning of Faithful in the Fallen, he's just like bullied and pushed over, and I think Totho has the potential to get some cojones to him and grow up a little, and like he's going to just be this awesome arms dealer or something, like because he's already all along that path, and he's already taken his first step to do something bold and a little bit ridiculous to go to help out Salma. So I think he's going to be. I'm excited for his arc. Just, I mean, in book 1, he's not up there as a favorite, but I think he has potential to be a favorite moving forward.
Oh yeah, and at the end we're going to make predictions, and Dom's going to do his best to like
Yeah, just turn off your
I'm already
camera.
here, like, I can't say anything.
I love, like, okay, so Totho, I am glad that he is with Solma, because this is the only plot I did not like. The only plot that I disliked strongly in this is, like, I am with Arceus when he was like, no, like, we hate the butterflies because they're useless. I agree with him. I also hate the butterfly. I did not like the Salma falling for grief made manifest, grief and chains. The if the butterflies have that power to literally turn every male like in love with them, how have the butterflies been conquered? How did she ever get captured? How have the butterflies not taken over the world? That is too powerful. And Salma was so cool from the beginning. Like, he's just so cool. And then all of a sudden, he turns into this like whimpering fool who's like, I must see her. And it's just like, it makes me so mad, because when they're all reunited, like, you know, Tanissa and Che and Totho, and they're all just like so happy to see each other. And then Tanissa even goes to Salma, is like, do you not care about all these people who like literally risked their lives to save you? Like, do you not care about your friends that you grew up with? And he's like, I gotta go find her. And it's like, why? Why? All of the other romance stuff, the Totho and Che, and then the you know, Tanissa and Salma, and Arceus and Che, all of that felt, you know, like it felt well prepared and well laid out, and like I believed all of it. And then all of a sudden, this stupid butterfly thing, and he leaves everyone. And he's like, yeah, I took an oath to help you, Stenwald, but my oath apparently means nothing, because this is what I'm going to do. So, and it just makes me so mad. And here's the thing, and Dom, don't say anything, but here's what's going to make me mad. There's going to be a siege at the head of Dragonfly Falling. I know there is, because they're sieging, you know, Tark. And it's going to be awesome. And then we're going to have these freaking, like, it's going to break the siege, and Salma's going to be, instead of helping anybody, going to look for the dumb butterfly, and it's just going to like break the pacing. And it's just, I did not like that part at all. Thought, Christy?
I totally agree. Yeah, no, I thought that was really annoying, because I liked Salma a lot as well. But, you know, one of my predictions for later will be, I think that Salma will get his heart broken for the first time in his life. And even though I like him, it will be good for him. He needs that, I think. So,
he's a prince.
I found that annoying. Yeah, he's a prince. He needs to understand what other people experience.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people like did not enjoy. Yeah, I mean, that's true, Salvos. That is true. I just thought that Salma didn't really like that earlier. I mean, that's true.
Yeah. Well, he was kind of a ladies' man earlier. So
PlayStation 1 Square Enix storyline. That's true. It's definitely true. Are there ladybug Kindon? That would be so cool if there were ladybug. Dom,
we don't know yet.
Are there ladybug Kindon? I'm happy to know.
I'm trying to remember. It's I'm saying no. I'm trying to remember if there are ladybug Kindon. I think there might be, but I can't recall.
I gotcha.
There's certainly a lot of insects that get representation. So
I gotcha.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I'm not a super fan of that. I liked Salma up until that point. I really liked. I just liked how cool he was under pressure. You know, Che is basically insulting his entire culture for being uncivilized. Like, why don't you want machines? Why are you uncivilized? And he's just like, it's just how we do things. Sorry. But I also liked how he was just really good in the air, and about how the dragonflies like could kick the crap out of the wasps in the air. So I really, really enjoyed that. And then
The plane hijacking was cool.
Yes. I liked the plane hijacking because that's the first time that we see Salma and Tanissa, who are the capable ones up to that point, having to rely on the two beetles because they can't do it.
Yeah.
I love that.
I loved that too.
So Che,
amazing.
I know a lot of people found Che annoying. I did too, but not in a she's written badly way, in a she's just the dumpy younger sister who is a teenager and feels bad about herself way, which is annoying, but it was well written. It's just like, so it didn't bother me in that, like, I hate you, Che. It bothered me in, like, you know, she's going to have her moment. She's going to have her moment. I liked the moments with her and Thalric a lot. I think Thalric and his loyalty to Empire and the fact that, like you said, Joe, where he likes the pleasures, like he believes in Empire, while at the same time, he will do anything for Empire. But he does not like doing anything for Empire. Like we've seen that he's shaken by having to kill those Dragonfly kids that, you know, before the book even starts. It haunts him, but he'll do it. He'll do it because Empire. Just like now, he's going to be like, I hate that he's inland, whatever the Secret Service thing is called, because the Raketh, he doesn't want to kill wasps. He doesn't want to be a traitor hunter. He wants to, you know, be out in the field, like, for Empire. He doesn't want to kill his own kind and betray friends, but they told him to. So there
at times he reminded me of the character in Inglourious Bastards, the Hans guy, who's the one that's going in and like interviewing and finding like the people, and he just reminds me of that because he's so good at what he does, but then at the end he's going to have his own agenda and his own steering because he sees a better way or wants a better way or a different way. But until then, he's still going to be the best at doing what he does for the Empire.
Yeah, I agree. I love Thalric. What are your Dom? What were your initial Thalric thoughts when you first read this book? You obviously know where his plot goes.
I really liked him. Yeah, he was one of my favorite book one characters through both readings. I just thought he was really interesting. He was quite layered, and obviously, the more we get to know him, the more those layers start peeling away. I quite liked the bit where they're having the raid on Scuto's place, and he just goes to a cafe and sits down with Stenwald and just to look him in the eye and to delay him a little bit. And I thought that was quite. There wasn't really intensity to it, but it kind of had intensity at the same time. So yeah, I really liked him, and I thought he had some really key moments, but some really good ones as well.
I completely agree. I think Tchaikovsky writes, because a lot of times you find authors that are good at one or the other, but I think Tchaikovsky writes both incredible emotional or just character connection scenes, like intense character scenes, and intense action scenes. The confrontation, like that scene where they're sitting at the table, him and Stenwald, has just as much intensity and just as much tension as the raid on the train or the prison break. Like it was so good. The raw pain and rage that Tissamon felt at seeing Tynissa, and the fact that she looks just like Atrissa, and the fact that Stenwald didn't tell him, even though Stenwald's like if I'd have told you, you literally would have murdered her. You literally would have murdered her. And he's like, yes, you still should have told me. Like the intensity is just so good. And that's why I love his book so much. He does the same thing in Guns of the Dawn, which is my only other Tchaikovsky book. Same thing, like intense battle scenes, intense character scenes. I think it's done so well. Thoughts, Christine?
About what? Sorry, I was taking notes.
No, about his character scenes versus action scenes.
About character scenes versus, I thought they were both really good. Honestly, I like this whole book was kind of like there was a lot of setup in it, but again, the characters kept pulling me through the setup very easily, so that I barely even noticed it, to be honest. And then the action scenes were awesome, and I could actually follow them. So that's quite a skill, especially for a debut author. Like I was just really impressed by that.
Yeah, I agree. Joe?
Yeah, the stakes always kind of felt high no matter what they were doing, even if they were, plummeting on a plane or just interacting around a campfire with each other, because there's just craziness is going to go on no matter what they do. Their next decision is going to have ramifications, and like it never felt exhausting. Like I know there were times you might need to catch your breath, but at times you're still just like you're still wanting more. So it wasn't too overloading at any point in time, but there was always something.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Dom? Does that continue his ability to write intense character scenes and intense action scenes?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, you've seen it in other books as well, so you've got a little bit of extraneous experience for it. But yeah, I think throughout the entire 10 books, there's no real kind of let up in that respect, at least from what I can remember. So yeah, something very good for you guys to look forward to.
I'm so excited.
Yay.
I just like it.
So much happened.
I agree. Like his pacing is even in the slow parts, like he makes things go way faster. The example I gave is when Tanissa was working for the gang in a different fantasy series, that would be the whole book of her. Yeah. She would spend the entire book working off that debt. Tchaikovsky's done in 2 chapters. She's done. Pay the debt, move on. And I loved that because I was like, like, I know Albert likes that part. I'm just like, Tanissa, no, reunite the characters. The whole time I'm like, no, please don't spend the whole book not united. Please reunite. And they did, which is good. But I was happy that part went quick. He just so much happens. He does the same thing in Guns of the Dawn. Like, he's like, I don't have time. Let's go. I don't have time. Let's do it.
Yeah, that felt like it was kind of a jarring side quest. It felt like to me for Tanissa because it seems like that should have been way longer. And I hope those characters play a role. Like I was hoping at the very end of the train scene, I hope that gang, like the big scorpion guy, was going to come and help her out, just be unintentional reinforcements. So I'm hoping like those characters, especially the old lady that found her and recruited her, I think she could be a potential for a really good character. But just at that segment, I'm like, how did she gonna get into this gang, basically sit 2 seats away, kill this person, pay off her debt, and then it's just like how that was all really, it almost was too fast and too much. So I hope there's payoff down the road because that was just like a weird side quest to me.
Yeah, I mean Sam agrees it was too rushed. If he does, it is really fast paced. So yeah, like I can understand that. Also too rushed. The reason I didn't feel it was too rushed is because I didn't like that plot. So I was happy it's done. I'm like, cool, we're done. We're moving on.
And it couldn't introduce Tisman.
Yeah, kind of. Yes, exactly. We got to see Tisman again, which was freaking awesome. But if you like that, like, I mean, I can see how you could see it's too rushed. This right here, yes. When Thalric chose not to shoot Che during the escape, and the great thing is he could have done it for many reasons. He could have done it for the reason that he's convincing himself he did it, which is just like, not today. Like, let's just let him go. He could have done it because he's developed this weird kind of like affinity for Che. He could have done it because he's just too bloody tired because he got his face wrecked fighting against Ulther's men. Like, I'm glad he didn't do it. And he 100% regrets it right now because the train blew up. So
yeah,
that's a rip.
Thalric. I don't. So you guys all like Thalric because he's complex? Is that the reasoning?
I like his story. I think he's the most interesting. I'm not saying as a person, as a human being, but like he's definitely the most interesting. So like whenever I see a Thalric chapter coming up, I'm gonna be like, yes, this is gonna be interesting. But I'm still gonna want him to lose.
Yeah, no, Christy, I like him because I agree with everything that he does.
Yeah.
I knew it.
betting slaves and
I just don't. I don't get you guys.
What?
I don't know. I don't even think he's that interesting, to be honest. Like, he can be moved to pity, but only because he killed some children before their mother, and that act haunts him. So that's the only reason. That's his whole character arc. And then every time he's like, for the Empire, all I can hear is, my precious.
I told you cannot make that comparison. No. Okay, so I am drawn to characters like this that are very single-minded in their focus and like loyalty to. I like loyalty in general as kind of like a trope for characters. So the fact that he is doing things that he doesn't necessarily agree with, they're horrible things. I agree. I mean, I'm not condoning what he does.
Yeah, they are.
I agree with you. Like I agree. I'm agreeing with you. But I'm saying that I think that makes him an interesting character. I think it makes him a more complex villain than a complete. He's not a fanatic. He's not a fanatic. He's a loyalist, and there's a difference. Okay. He's not a fanatic because
I've heard
if he was a fanatic, he wouldn't. He would be okay with everything he's doing, and he's not. It is taking a toll on him, even though it says what kind of chips have been put in his shield of loyalty by the end. It's wearing on him, and I think it's like he's headed for a breakdown. Like I don't think his psyche can take it much longer. And so that's why I find him interesting. But I also am partial to villains in books in general. And I'm drawn to military commanders as characters as well. There's a character in the third Long Price Quartet book who is very, very similar. He is the head of an opposing military and is also very, very single-minded in his focus, and he's fantastic. So that's where I am, Christy. You just hate him because he's...
I mean, why does he love the Empire so much? It doesn't make sense to me.
Because he was
born. That doesn't matter. You can hate what your country's doing if you're a decent person.
They're the Nazis, Christy.
So that was the first time I heard you say he was a villain. So I'm comforted by that.
He is the
good.
Do you think I was saying he was the hero?
I thought he was... No, I thought you were thinking he was going to like turn or something. And I was like, I don't think that guy's going to turn.
It's possible.
And if he does...
He's a bad guy.
I don't know.
I think there could be a temporary alliance. That's why, because of his Einr conflict, because he might have a temporary alliance and then just to get his serve his own purposes, because whether he needs to, he might even want to try and lead the Empire himself away from where they're going, but he still wants to be a part of the Empire. So that's why I think those little nuggets, because he doesn't agree with the Empire later on, but it'll be interesting to see how and if that plays out.
Yeah, he's a bad guy, Christy. I said at the beginning in the non-spoilers, I'm like, it has a really like interesting, complex antagonist. I said antagonist. He's a bad guy.
Antagonist and villain are two different things.
Well, I mean,
sometimes,
not
always. But like antagonist is softer. It means they could still be right. I mean, or like potential for change.
Right. In his mind, he is right. He doesn't think anything he's doing is wrong. He doesn't like it, but he doesn't think it's wrong.
And so I find him a despicable person.
That doesn't mean he's not interesting.
I don't think that's very interesting.
What? Have you ever watched Criminal Minds? Have you ever watched Criminal Minds?
Yeah, I follow true crime, but not I haven't watched.
If you've watched Criminal Minds, those people are horrible. But you're watching it because they're interesting, right? That's it. That's where we are. It's an episode of Criminal Minds.
I watch it because my husband's in law enforcement. That's why I watch it.
Well, it's Criminal Minds Kindon edition. He's a he's a terrible man. He's a Nazi. He is a Nazi. Like, we can say it or not. The Wasps are the Nazis / the Persians.
Okay, good. Okay, I feel better about it.
Okay, he is the villain of the story. I will accept that. He is definitely the villain.
Okay, good. Cool. I was just disturbed by all the I love Thalric feelings I was getting from everybody.
Oh, 100%. This is despicable. I completely forgot about that scene that he sleeps with the wasp.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's horrible. He's horrible. Sorry. He is complex and interesting. I like him because he's interesting. I do not like his actions. I do not like him because I'm like, man, I could do all those things. No, I feel like he's interesting. And I tend to like villains. Oh yeah, poor Dom has to sit there and listen to our foolishness.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we go into predictions, where Dom has to hide his face, does anyone have any final things they want to talk about, spoilers about this book, other than the fact that we liked it and Christy and I are never going to agree on Thalric, but it's okay. You have allies, Christy. Like Angela and Ina didn't really like. No wait.
Thank you.
Ina did. Angela didn't really like Thalric either. So.
Yeah.
I think so. We covered everything.
Okay. Well, cool. Well, then what? Let's do our predictions, and Dom, do your best. I'm not even going to look at Dom's screen. My predictions are.
I'm fine.
My predictions are. I do think there's going to be some form of redemption for Thalric, and it's going to. But I think right after it happens, he's going to die. I do not think he's going to be a permanent ally. I don't know when this is going to happen. I predict that Che is going to be like the first of the apt to have both technology and magic. I think that's going to be her thing because she sucks at everything. So her thing's going to be like, oh, I can do magic and I can also do machines. And they're going to be like, oh my gosh, it's like a new thing. I also think that, what else? I do not think Tissamon survives the first 4 books. I don't think Tissamon survives. I do know spoilers I own all the books and I've looked at the covers. So I have seen the survival of a couple characters that I'm just not going to talk about. But I don't think Tissamon's going to survive the first arc just because he's so mad. I think he's going to finish teaching. I think he's going to finish teaching Tanissa and then be done. In fact, I'm going to predict it in book 3 because it's called Blood of the Mantis. I'm going to predict he dies there.
Bit on the nose.
yeah, exactly.
Just on that point, I don't know if all editions of the books are the same, but at the front of the books, there's a glossary and it's got a character list. So that'll, if you read that ahead of your time, be aware that you might spoil yourself. It will generally, if character names pop off, it will generally relate to the previous book, but you take that as a word of warning.
Oh, thank you, because I absolutely would have read that freaking character list. Thank you for telling me to stay away from it. I will absolutely stay away from it. Thank you. And I think that may be all of my predictions. I'm with Joe that Totho is going to become some. I thought that Totho was about to make a heel turn, like because he just hates the wasps. That would be cool, but I don't think it's going to happen. Christy, what predictions you got?
Well, I know you didn't really love like the younger characters, but part of what excites me about them was their potential, because there's just so much there that they're still growing into. Like, obviously, we already see Tynisa being like a super great killer, but like with Che and Totho, they're still developing. So I'm really excited to see where they go. I don't really know, but your prediction about Che makes a lot of sense.
Sam posted this theory. I don't think this is going to happen, but if Stenwald became the series' main villain, this would be my favorite series of all time. You don't understand. I love heroes becoming villains over the course of a long series. If this happened, this would be my favorite series of all time. I'm just saying now, if this happens, this will be my favorite series of all time. It's not going to, but if it does, if Stenwald becomes the villain, I'm there. I'm there. Sorry. Continue.
That would be really tricky. Like I that would be hard to be believable, but it would be interesting. And I think later books will focus more on other characters, and I'm hoping that Totho will get his own book, kind of like this was Che's book.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and Selma's heart getting broken, I think that'll happen as well.
I sure hope so he can move on and like join the war effort instead of following that stupid butterfly. Grief in chains, whatever. Like, get out. Go back to whatever butterfly cave y'all hide in. Because he's like the butterflies, like they just are there and they hang out like in glades and dance around the lake or whatever they do. Go. Stop it. You're ruining the book. Joe?
So to stick with Selma, I think he's going to be swayed at some point, and he's going to be against them, whether it's, you know, that butterfly brainwash or just something of how he feels. Like, I think he's going to oppose, and maybe it's when his people, his dragonfly, become into it, they're going to be fighting each other. I think there's going to be a struggle there. I do think over the course of the 4 books that Stenwald will die before Tisman, and I thought it was going to be Tisman first, because usually the badass dies first, but because of what I think Tynisa's arc is going to be, I think her spider side is going to start to conflict with her mantis side, and I think her mom isn't dead, and that way it's going to cause a struggle with her, and so then to keep the tension, Tisman is going to stay alive longer, and then maybe in book 3 there's going to be a culmination of that, and there's, you know, Tynisa and Tisman are going to fight again. But I think the spider side, and because they kind of hate each other, spider and mantis,
yeah.
So I think that's going to keep tension. And then Stenwald, he's all about, like, it's Stenwald's vision, and I think a vision can survive past someone's death. So I think if he dies in the earlier arcs, then I think it can continue on throughout. But I also think that will lead up into maybe it'll be caused by Stenwald's death or something, but ultimately the war is going to go from wasps versus everybody to apt versus non-apt.
Ooh, that's interesting. Oh.
I mean, you got 10 books, so
it's like, sorry, go ahead.
And bonus one, I think the mosquito people just need to be vampires, and
Look,
and cockroaches should be like zombies, like armor-coated zombies. They just can't kill them.
I want the mosquito lords to be real so bad. Like they're like, oh, I'll even write to the mythical mosquito lord.
Yeah, that was like, yes.
Please let them be real. Please let the mosquito lords be real. So, oh yeah, the Minan rebels. It took me a minute to realize like what the Minans were, and they're soldier beetles, which they finally end up saying, but it just takes them forever to get to their soldier beetles, and I had to look it up. What a soldier beetle looks like. I am so excited to read this, guys. I'm serious. Like, I'm so excited to read this. I'm so excited to go to book 2. I've got a couple commitments, but I'm probably going to get to it middle of the month, and I'm just so excited. Well, guys, audience, thank you so much for watching us. You guys, Dom, Christy, Joe, thank you guys so much for joining us in this. Dom, thank you especially for talking up this series and for trying to hold your tongue as we babble on about about what we think. But it's cool to see. Yeah, it's cool to see that the series maintains its quality over 10 books, because that's hard to do. Like 10 books is like you got Wheel of Time with its 14, and a lot of people, not all, but a lot of people consider that there's some books that are hard to get through, et cetera, et cetera. So
yeah,
it's good to see.
They're pretty chunky books as well. So
yeah,
definitely.
Books 3 and 4 are short. They're the shortest by far. Books 3 and 4 are like 400.
The shortest too. Yeah.
Yeah, and then every other one is like 600 plus. So
yeah, I'm pumped.
Well, guys, thank you so much. If you if please continue the read along with us. Next month we'll have 3 new panelists talking about Dragonfly Falling, and we'll see how many of our predictions come true, how incredibly wrong we were. Hopefully, the Salma not be the worst. And join us at the end of next month to talk about Dragonfly Falling. So bye, guys. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks very much. Bye.